Morning,
Good
René.
morning. Good morning, Dean.
Listen, thank you for joining us. Normally, big clubs, we spend the whole summer talking about the players they're buying. I think the most important thing that's happened in Manchester United in the close season so far is the decision that they're going to stick with the manager. And, you know, a third season, not a lot of people get 3 seasons in the Premier League these days. How important is that decision?
Well, it's important, Danny, that there was clarity at some point, because the more it dragged on, the worse it will get. So everybody knows what how the situation unfolded. With Manchester United and Ten Hag winning the FA Cup final, which was great, and then you got this period of a review where everybody knew Manchester United did sound out some other managers apparently, but eventually they came back to Eric Ten Hag and says, you are going to be the man for the future. So clarity is important, because then, you can start working on the new direction or carrying on with the direction you're heading in.
René, obviously you've been inside big clubs and you know how it works, and I'm looking from the inside as well. And I think Eric Ten Hag has gone into Man United, and instead of starting to build a team straight away, he's had a terrible problem of getting rid of some of the players who have let the club down over the years. And because they're earning so much money, it becomes even more difficult to find them clubs. And now we see Harry Maguire, who I think could have gone to 5 different clubs, and Luke Shaw's playing centre-half instead of him. I think Phil Jones played instead of him. If it had been me, I would have said, I'm off. I'm going to play somewhere else. But obviously his wages are stopping him leaving the club. He can't get the money anywhere else. So I think Ten Hag's problem, instead of being building from the off, he's still dismantling. There's still a few players there he needs to get rid of.
Absolutely, but that is the nature of the beast, Dean, in that respect. But as a manager and coaching staff, you have to focus on putting a team together, that plays with a certain style, that performs and gets results. These are the things on the side, and you can partly control them, and partly you can't. But at the end of the day, you have to focus on what's important, to making sure that you feel the team that is representing Manchester United in the right way on the pitch, in a certain style, like I said, and getting results.
It's just, I feel sorry for him in that part. He's had a problem with Sancho, he's had a problem with Rashford, he's had a problem with like getting players out, and I don't think we've seen the real Ten Hag yet.
René, I really was interested when Manchester United splashed out the thick end of 60 million on René Meulensteen, a player, and I do the European football show here on talkSPORT. Not a player who was top of everybody's list, but he's 18 years of age. We've seen Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Spurs, all buying players, in their late teens. Is there something going on here? Because normally the big money is spent on players at the peak of their careers, but now we seem to be investing really heavily in youth.
Yeah, I think there is a trend. And I think for Manchester United it has been for a long time. At least I know when Sir Alex Ferguson was there, and my time, there was sort of a rule that we didn't want to sign players over 23. So the big the big chunk of the players that were coming in were under 23, apart from when we brought in Robin van Persie, who was one of the guys that we thought with experience and Premier League experience that we brought him in. But yeah, there's definitely a trend that these younger players get picked up. And with René Meulensteen, I'm sure that the new backroom, and that is the difference, Dean, I think, with Ten Hag now, I think he's by far better backed with better people in the technical side from behind the scenes. So they know what they're doing. They must have done the due diligence on René Meulensteen for sure. And that's why they brought him in.
I mean, we all know that Manchester United's history in the Champions League is very important to the club. But of course, it's competitive football. Nobody has a right to be in the Champions League. I suppose, same as last year, I got it wrong. I suppose England will end up getting 5 places in the Champions League. One of them will be Manchester United, do you think, René?
Well, they should be. I mean, honestly, I think last year, if you look at it, it wasn't a great season. Yes, they finished well with the FA Cup, but if you look overall, the Premier League, the Champions League, I think everybody knows, and Eric knows that first and foremost, that it wasn't up to standards, and they have to pick things up. Things have to things have to be fixed because we all know, the sort of problems that they had. And, they need to get off to a good start.
Yeah, it's going to be another very, very competitive year. Thank you, René. René Meulensteen there. 3 times league title winner, of course, as a coach of Manchester United. We'll come back to that.
He knows what's going on. It's difficult when you try and get rid of players who are on stupid wages. Nobody'll take them.
Everyone thinks these big clubs, they've got a right to go. They're like huge oil tankers. Once they start to slip away from the pinnacle, it's always very hard to turn them around.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.